Good morning and welcome to first lesson for maths for the week. Okay, our learning target is to multiply decimals by 10, by 100 and by 1,000. Okay, now there is a rule here, and once you understand that rule and you've got that really clearly and you've practiced that, then this should be quite straightforward. But to start with, it's really important that you understand the rule. So we're going to quickly kind of spend the first part of this video recapping that. Right, this is really important, and I know that some of you, if we're in the classroom, we would be hearing this, okay? So, some misconception. A misconception is something which you understand, but it isn't quite right, so we're going to address that to start with. And the first one says, when multiplying by 10, I add a 0. Okay, now I know some of you, I can hear you saying that. So I'm going to just really quickly show you why we don't want you just to do that. Okay, right, here is my example here. So when multiplying by 10, I add a 0. And you might say to me, Miss Halls, it works. Yeah, because 10 times 10, I know my 10 times table, just add a 0 on the end and I get 100, and it's so easy. Okay, now this is kind of like using a calculator, isn't it? If you know what to do and you just plug that in, you get the answer. But what we want you to do is really understand what's going on with the numbers. And I would challenge you with this one. So if you're saying to me, Miss Halls, when multiplying by 10, you just add a 0. And I showed you this decimal. Yep, 10.0. Okay, I'm going to add a 0. 10.0. And I add my 0. Something's not quite right there, is it? If I likewise had 26.2 and I times that by 10 and I added my 0, as you said, okay, now that's why when we say to you, don't just add a 0 when you're multiplying by 10. It might work some of the time. But if it doesn't work all of the time, it's not going to be the best strategy to use, and it's going to fail you at times. So what we want you to do is understand what is happening with those numbers so that you really understand what's going on and can understand the difference with this. So yeah, especially when it comes to decimals that we've been using recently, this method is not going to work and is going to catch some people out. So the other one is, when multiplied by 10 or 100, I move the decimal point. Okay, now the decimal point is something which does not move in our maths. Yeah. This would, if we were going to be moving the decimal point, if we said we're going to move the decimal point one place to the right, yeah, might work. But then if I'm moving the decimal point 2 places to the right on this one, I've run out of digits here, and that's going to make it really hard. Okay, so what we want to show you today, and the method which we want you to use, is moving away from these. Okay, we want you to be able to do this, but really show that you can understand what's happening with the digits when it happens. So what is key again, and I know lots of you have been using these, is our good old place value grid. Now it will be worth, if you've got a whiteboard, it will be worth setting one up like this. If not though, just get a piece of paper and a pen, mark it out on a big piece of A4 like this, and then just use a pencil when you're working on it. It'll take you a couple of minutes to set it up, but if you write on it in pencil, you'll be able to use this over the next couple of days. So it would definitely be worth using it, even if you're quite confident, just to check what you're doing. So when we are multiplying by 10, we move all the digits one place to the left. I'll show you that here. So multiplying 3.24 by 10, we're going to move the digits one place to the left. So my 1's digit is going to move to my 10's column. My 2's digit is going to move to my 1's column. Decimal point stays there. My 100's digit moves to my 10's digit. So 3.24 multiplied by 10 will be 32.4. Okay, right, now when I have multiplying by 100, we're moving each decimal 2 places to the left. Yep. So let's go back to this one. We're starting with our 3.24, 2 places to the left. So my 3 that's there in my ones digit will now find itself in the hundreds column. Okay, 2 places across, and my 4, 2 places across. Okay, my decimal point would be there. Yep, so I can always just put it in a 0 here if I want to as a placeholder just to show, but I've got 324. Okay, now I can be doing a little bit of an estimate here. If I've multiplied 3.24 by 100, it should be just a bit bigger than 300. So using your estimation skills will be good here as well. Right, if we're multiplying by 1,000, the digits move 3 places to the left. So going back to where we started from, I'm multiplying my 3.24 by 1,000, so that's each one is moving 3 places. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, if I'm taking my 3, that's in my ones column, so that's a 3, and I'm multiplying it by 1,000. Think about it. Yeah, that makes sense that that's 3,000. So then my 2, 1, 2, 3. My 4 digit, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, now I've got a problem here, haven't I? Because my decimal point is still here, and I'm going to need to put a space holder in here. I can't just have that floating empty, okay? So 3,240. Does that seem a reasonable answer? 3 and a bit multiplied by 1,000 will be 3,000 and something. Yes, that seems reasonable. Okay, so remember this rule. It might be an idea today to write out that rule somewhere so you've got it to refer to throughout your work today. Okay, so these are your questions. This one you'll need to draw out the grid, or you can just write it into the answer books, but make sure that you have, for each number that you've multiplied by each number by 10, by 100 and by 1,000. Remember that rule. You might want to do multiplying by 10 for all of them first, and then 100 and then 1,000, it's up to you. This one, all of these are multiplying by 100. This one's probably the trickiest one, so we'll come back to that in a minute. This one, you've got the rule there, which is going to be useful. You've got to select the right answer there, okay? This one, a little bit of problem solving. You guys are getting really good at this. It's really showing that thinking. It should slow you down and go, and this explaining your answer is what's really important. Your explanation really shows us your understanding of this concept. So that's really important. Be as detailed as you can, because the more detail that you write, it's kind of like we can't hear you talking like we would in class. So we need that detailed written explanation to really understand how much you understand this. Okay, right, don't forget, this might seem like, oh, I don't need to do that, I can just do it in my head. But using a place value chart and drawing one of these out, even if you're feeling quite confident, just use it to check that you are confident and that you are right would be a really good idea today.